Hello, everyone. It's Tim from Spacenet TV. Welcome to CinemaCents, a little weekly show I do where I analyze the current top 5 movies in the U.S. domestic market. We'll take a look at their box office performance, look at the winners and losers, recap the movies with some spoilers, and I'll provide my own commentary on the top 5 movies. We'll also look at what's coming up, maybe watch a trailer or two together, if ever something gets released that's worth watching. We'll even take a look at what's coming up on the streaming services. I do have a few words to say about Fallout on Amazon Prime. At the time of this recording, it's Monday, April 15th. Wow, I got to do my taxes. Crap. Anyway, we'll be reviewing the box office returns for the weekend of April 12th. There's a couple of surprises in here that's worth looking at and taking a peek at what's kind of happening in the overall market. Thanks for being here, and let's jump right in. You know, my wife tells me that I don't look directly into the camera often enough. I find it a little creepy when I do that, frankly. I'm staring at you right now. She thinks it's better than when I occasionally glance down at the notes I've written for myself here because, you know, I'm old and my memory is gone. So I do like to keep a little note to make sure I can keep on track. But she thinks I'm not engaging enough or I'm not staring at you. Tell me in the comments below which you prefer. Should I be looking directly at you at all times like a psycho, or is it okay if I glance down at my notes once in a while? Anyway, let's go ahead and jump in. The beginning of April generally is not a very busy time at the box office. A few things open here or there, but towards the latter part of April, you're going to start to see some of the studios trying to get a jump on the summer blockbuster season, or in Disney's case, get those flops out fast so you can kind of rip it off like the Band-Aid and get it over with. Some notable things that happened at the end of April historically is Avengers Endgame in 2019, which went on to have $357 million opening weekend. I wonder if Disney remembers what that felt like. Of course, this was the end of the Marvel Cinematic Universe that Ike Perlmutter had helmed, and had basically had laid out the plan for before that little twerp Kevin Feige took over and proceeded to just destroy the entire studio, and all of the characters went along with it. Feige took over from this point and brought us the Black Widow and Thor: Love and Blunder, just the litany of horrible things that you all have seen. I'm sorry, but you all have seen and despised. Also, during this period of time, has been successful for the Fast and Furious franchise, which has released 2 movies, one all the way back in 2011 with the Fast Five. 2011. Wow, that stuff has been around for a while. And also 2017 for The Fate and the Furious. 2011, and that was the 5th one? But what do they release? One of those like every 30 days? Overall, both of those openings did pretty well for the Fast and Furious franchise, with taking in $86 million and $98 million, respectively, in their opening weekend. So Fast and Furious has always been kind of on the forefront of wanting to get ahead of the blockbuster season and try to find that period in time where it can put something into the marketplace that doesn't have a lot of competition around it. That's part of how it's been as successful as it has. Don't really look for that to be happening this week. There was only really one opening of any note, and it's not going to set the world on fire. There was no big blockbusters that came down the pike. I'm not sure there's any big blockbusters anywhere on the horizon, but this was a relatively mediocre, I won't call it mediocre, call it a mid weekend for the box office. And so let's jump in and see what the top 5 looks like. Well, long live the fighters. Fighting its way back into the top 5 in the number 5 spot is Dune Part 2 with $4.3 million in release weekend 7. The spice must flow, but it seems to be flowing just a bit slower. But Dune Part 2 is showing some staying power, and that's good. It's a well-done adaptation of Dune, worth your time to see on the big screen. With a production budget of $190 million and a heavy reliance on the overseas market, Dune Part 2 needs to take in over $510-ish million to break even. And it has achieved that, with a global box office nearing $684 million. Dune Part 2 is well into profitability to the tune of $170 million. Is it enough to make more movies based on the Dune saga? It would seem so, but it's not so cut and dry. Dune Messiah, the next book in the series, isn't as well known as the original story. It might be riskier for Warner Brothers to push forward with something not so well known. If you're dying to see a big screen Dune Messiah, then let's hope that Dune Part 2 continues to have some legs for a few more weekends. Much like the expected result from last night's Taco Bell dinner, Kung Fu Panda 4 cannot be flushed. It just lingers around, reminding you of all your poor choices. The Jack Black-led Kung Fu Panda 4 kicked and screamed its way to a respectable 5.5 million and climbed up into the number 4 spot. Okay, to be honest, the screaming was mostly from me. What can I say? The Kung Fu Panda saga continues, and audiences are still eager to see it. It really is the only kids' fare in theaters presently, which is helping it. That is, except for a Shrek 2 limited re-release for, I think it's its 20th anniversary. 20th anniversary, wow. And still better than most things that are out there within the last 2 decades. It has less than half the theaters that Kung Fu Panda does, so it was never going to be much of a threat to it. On the rather modest budget of $85 million, it is profitable for Universal, raking in $425 million worldwide. Actually, I think it's somewhere closer to $450 million, given some restatements I just saw come out today. That's a $200 million profit for Universal and counting. Well, I can take some solace that at least the panda hasn't been swapped out for a stunning and brave female black bear. Third spot goes to Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, holding on to the spot from last weekend and freezing out the competition with a $5.8 million showing. It looks like there's still a lot of love for our favorite paranormal investigators, even in the coldest of cinematic climates. Unfortunately, it's still not very good, still mostly nostalgia bait and key jangling, and frankly, that's the best part of it. Insufferable Gen Zers and everybody's favorite bit of milquetoast, Paul Rudd, that Sony are trying to prop up and crowbar in as the next-gen cast in a failing attempt to make a franchise out of the Ghostbusters, are simply not up to the task. They're not funny, and they're not interesting. Ghostbusters is still a long way away from breaking even, needing $90 million to make the milestone. It's not going to make it in the box office. For the love of God, Sony, just stop. Let it end. It's never going to be a franchise. As much as it pains me to say so, Bill Murray was right all those years when he refused to do another one. Just let it go. Dropping down to the second spot in its third weekend's box office is Godzilla x Kong. Kong. Versus Kong? No, that was before. Times Kong? No, that didn't make sense. The New Empire, with a $15.5 million take. It seems like the Battle of the Titans is still going strong, but it's got some catching up to do if it wants to match the first installment's success. Godzilla and Kong is popcorn fun. If you're here for deep storytelling, you might want to adjust those expectations. The plot serves as a thin crust of a pizza. It's there holding everything together to get you to the monster battles. But let's be honest, we're all just here for the toppings anyway. Speaking of toppings, the human cast is kind of there, does what they can when they're not running for their lives to add some context and a pinch of emotional grounding to the story. If you're here for any kind of arc or emotional story associated with the humans in this show, you're not going to get it. They're just here to string things along between the battles. Is Godzilla and Kong perfect? Not by a long shot. But does it deliver the monster mashup promises it makes? Absolutely. It's a popcorn flick through and through. If you enjoy the Godzilla movies, if you enjoy monster movies in general, this one is designed to thrill and entertain, and on that front, it roars loudly. How is the movie performing? Quite well, thank you. Off of its $135 million budget, it would have to fall in roughly around $335 to $340 million as a break-even point. It's already surpassed that with its global haul already being close to $440 million. So it is well into the profitability area and performing very well for Warner Brothers, which is a really great thing because Warner Brothers is seriously cash-strapped. Not like this is going to save them, but it's not going to be something else that puts them further in the hole. Stepping into the number 1 spot is a new release titled Civil War, about a civil war. Marketing was really working overtime on this one. Thumbs up, guys. And no, it's not the fun one with superheroes. We're living in divided times, and we can always count on Hollywood to toss some gasoline on the fire, or in their case, a lithium battery. Civil War opened to a $25.7 million box office, setting an opening weekend record for its distributor, A24. Ever heard of them? No one really has. The movie sets out to explore the depths of ideological divides of a formerly unified nation. It's kind of a movie that's designed to make you think, or at least to make you think it's making you think. It's not really that deep. It's set in a near future America, which has descended into fighting after breaking into multiple different factions for uh, reasons. The reasons behind the conflict are left carefully ambiguous to allow the viewer to fill in their own ideas. You should have figured out from the first trailer that they weren't going to lean into anything based on current situations, since they have California and Texas teaming up to overthrow DC. Sort of like having the Emperor team up with Yoda to take on Leia. People who went to see Orange Man bad, or those who went to see the Lib Loonies get theirs, are equally disappointed. And that may be the undoing of this movie. The movie is visually very impressive, but it fails to tell a story that's little more than superficial. The only message it does try to convey throughout is that journalism and journalists are wonderful.
You serious?
That's how you know it's fiction. So there you have it, your weekly roundup of the weekend's top box office. I wanted to talk a little bit about Fallout, but this video is getting a little long and maybe I'll just do a separate video on it. However, I do have to say that I enjoyed it far more than I thought it was going to. It's streaming on Amazon Prime for those of you who haven't seen it yet, and if you're a fan of the game, I'd check it out. Visually, it's great. The costumes, the sets, they're all done very well. What I feared was going to be another girl boss turned out not to be, in any way that bad. It's worth watching. It's not great. It's good. If you like the franchise, watch it. It's hardly setting any kind of new bar for remaking of video games into live content. It's at least done with a little reverence to the existing source material. I enjoyed it far more than I thought I would. You check it out too. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. I really appreciate you joining me. I'll see you next week.